My name is Nancy Walker. I'm here today with Assistant Superintendent Heather Armelino, and we're going to talk a little bit about what next year is going to look like, what the 2021 school year is going to look like for teachers. A little different this year, I think. So, Heather, you just did a message to parents talking about how next year is going to look. Would you like to recap that a little bit and tell teachers some of the highlights from that message you sent?
Sure. Some of the big questions were about, are students going to have to wear masks? So we were able to answer that. Students will not have to wear a mask at school, so that's great news. We also expect that at least kindergarten through fifth grade will be coming back 5 days a week. So the trade-off there is that kids are going to need to stay in the same cohort for the day with their teacher, so they won't be out mixing with other groups. And then on the bus, because if we limit the number of kids on a bus to space them out, then we can't get everybody back. So we're going to fill up our buses, and that would be the only time that we would be requiring kids to wear a mask because we can't socially distance on the bus.
I see. So kids will be wearing masks on the bus.
On the bus.
And we'll provide those? Parents will provide those?
A little of both. We will have some, but we will be expecting parents to send their child with a mask. We're going to actually have some reusable ones that we can provide, but it's kind of like getting on the bus with your clothes and your shoes. That would be an expectation that they come with that, and then we would have some as a backup.
Okay. You referenced students not mixing, groups not mixing. So there are a lot of occasions at school where students mix, like they have reading groups, math intervention groups, ACE, those kinds of things. So talk to us about what that might look like, or how this will affect those kinds of groups.
Right. It is going to look a little different. And so we might feel a bit inconvenienced, but that's kind of the trade-off for getting everybody back. We won't be sharing students with other classes. So interventions might be more of a push-in, or if they do happen elsewhere, that would be a situation where we would probably have to be able to have adequate social distancing of that 6 feet if they go to an intervention room. Whereas within your own classroom, students will not have to be 6 feet apart all the time. We'll try to minimize that contact, but in order to get them all back, we really can't do that. So
I know there were concerns about the playgrounds and lunchrooms. How might that look, or do we know yet?
Following that same idea of staying with your cohort, so that's going to mean we have to spread out our recess times and our lunch times so that students go out with their class. When they go to the cafeteria, teacher's going to walk them to the cafeteria. They will sit at a table with their class, and we'll be using our aides first and foremost to help get us through lunch, because it's going to take a little bit longer. We won't be able to cram everybody in there at once. Even if they are at their own table, we'll have to space out a bit. And so that's another thing that will look a little bit different next year for sure.
All right, so that's a lot of different looking things, a lot of schedule changes, it sounds like, a lot of procedural changes. When will that be solidified so that teachers know, okay, here's what the expectation is, here's what we can expect?
Well, first, I would encourage all of our teachers to make sure they watch that parent video, because I talk a little bit more about it, but it won't be until late July that we have a plan that we're ready to send out. And at that point, we'll have an opportunity for teachers to give some input, for parents to give some input before we absolutely finalize it. And that's the common expectation with other districts in the county too. We're going to kind of wait till July 20th or later before that comes out.
Okay. Also, teachers I know are planning now, or traditionally they start planning for the new year now, thinking about things over the summer. How can they expect that planning to be influenced by what's happening?
Yeah, that's a great question. We know kids have been away for quite a while. So when students return, that primary focus really needs to be about social emotional support, building a community within your classroom, especially because they're going to have to live together in their own little bubble. And so taking the time to do some team building and establishing themselves as a family is going to be really important. Getting used to the whole routine of being back in school. We expect some kids will have some anxiety about returning. So we want that to be the primary focus during the first couple of weeks. Also, because we're going to have a lot of new routines and procedures and hand washing and all of those things that we need to teach and practice with kids over and over again so that the rest of the year goes more smoothly. We know that sometimes when if you're thinking as a teacher they've missed a lot, I need to get right on it. I need to figure out what they know and what they don't know. But we want to kind of say time out. We do not want to assess kids the moment they walk in the door. We need them to get used to being at school again and get comfortable so they can give us a more accurate picture of what they do know. So probably not until after those first 2 weeks that we'd start doing some assessment, and we were going to keep that primarily formative and some diagnostic so that we aren't spending a lot of time doing more assessment than is really necessary. And I think for teachers, it's really important to be thinking about the big picture is we don't want to try to go back and make up all the time we lost. So it's easy to think, well, I need to go back. I'm a third grade teacher. I need to go back and teach the end of second grade because they weren't in school. If we do that, we are going to put our kids in a position where they will never catch up. We will be perpetually behind. We learned a lot from Hurricane Katrina because that was the mindset when students came back. Okay, we need to go back and try to reteach everything. Yes. And that was really a miserable failure because students were always behind. So instead, we want a mindset of they're coming in as third graders or whatever it is. So what is the most important thing they need to learn as a third grader? What are the essential skills and standards and knowledge that they need? And then look at our planning out our school year and taking that in chunks. So if I'm going to introduce a unit on fractions, I'm going to use some formative assessment to make sure they have those prerequisite skills in order for me to teach that. And if that's missing, then I'm going to teach that just in time to introduce the new grade level material. So will it take us a little bit longer? Yeah, we're not going to cover all that ground probably in the year that we have, which is why it's really important that we zero in on what we absolutely want students to be able to master or at least move toward mastery in the time that we have them. So there's going to be a lot of collaborating with your grade level partners and with the grade level above and below and trying to align our pacing and what it is we want to cover, and then how do we know our kids are moving along in the right direction.
Wow. I'm sure that is a lot to think about, a lot for teachers to think about, a lot for the district to think about. And I'm sure teachers are going to really appreciate the acknowledgement that it's going to be tough and that we can't make it all up. We're not going to make it all up by looking back and starting mid-year last year to make up for this. With that in mind, what does the buyback day then on August 10th look like? Will it address some of these issues, or do you have a different plan for that day?
Our buyback day will look different. I know we all look forward to coming together at Parsons and having a little breakfast.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Our opening speaker, we probably won't be having that. So it will most likely be buyback day at your own site. May not even be able to accommodate your entire staff at once. So that might even be staggered. Everything we're talking about, of course, could change depending on what's happening in our community. So this is what we know right now. So we have 6 hours on August 10th, and we really have to think about what is most critical. And so I think some conversation about that social emotional piece and about just the broad instructional goals of how are we going to go about tackling this year ahead. We all established some WIGs or big goals for the year, and then our year got cut off. So for most of us, we didn't get to see or measure that end result. And so rather than feeling like that was a waste of time, I think that we learned some incredibly valuable lessons from that in our ability to really focus in on what is it we're trying to accomplish. And I think that's going to help us next year. Our goal may not be a metric that's measured by an end of year assessment next year, and that's okay. What we want to be is on the right pathway towards closing that achievement gap and helping our students be successful. But the way we do that might be more about identifying what they need and clarifying what it is we most want them to know, and then getting them to that point. August 11th, as you know, is a teacher work day, and we usually have that 2-hour meeting because there's going to be a lot to talk about with procedures and how different the day looks. So I imagine some of that will still need to happen on August 10th. So there's a lot that we have to cover. So we're really going to have to prioritize what we're able to do in that day. We have a new science curriculum also, and that is really meant to be a 3-hour training. And that's, of course, for 3rd through 8th grade, and our K2 are going to pilot. So what we're going to do instead is reduce that to an hour, more of an introduction. It will be virtual, and then the remaining hours we'll try to capture on our November Buyback Day. So at least teachers can get a start with their science.
Wow, a lot to think about for everybody. You talked about different procedures. I know that throughout the nation, actually, they talk about cleaning procedures, like even to go into stores anymore. They have certain procedures and protocols. What's that going to look like on our campuses?
Fortunately, we are not going to have to do a temperature check on every student as they arrive.
That'll be good.
For a while, it was looking that way, and as you can imagine, with a large school, I can only picture long lines of kids waiting to get their temperature checked. So we're going to ask parents to do that, and then teachers to do a visual wellness check as students enter the classroom. And if they have a student that doesn't look like they feel very well, then they would refer them to have a temperature check and a symptom check from there.
And then cleaning, what would cleaning look like?
We have a pretty innovative new cleaning system that we will be using, and I'm not going to go into detail about that right now because it's a lot to explain, but it does not use toxic chemicals. It does kill COVID. There isn't a long wait time for that to sit on a surface. So that's going to help us tremendously. For teachers, the important thing is they need to not use Clorox wipes or antimicrobial wipes because that will disrupt the process of how that keeps the bad stuff away. So it'll be just, water or baby wipes, things like that if they need to clean in between. But we will still be doing increased cleaning.
Okay. But if teachers have those kinds of things on their list of items for parents to get, cross off Clorox wipes or any other antimicrobial wipe.
Yeah.
All right. Good thing we won't have to take that Keenan training on that now this year. So then I can think of one more thing, being a former kindergarten teacher. I know kindergarten teachers really have appreciated the information they get from kindergarten assessments, and I know they start the year with kindergarten roundup. What might that look like for next year?
Still working that out, but the most likely scenario is that it will be by appointment, and if you haven't done that kinder screening yet, that might work perfectly to do that and then have a little classroom visit, but otherwise it may have to be more like 4 families at a time coming through just to see the classroom. So we'll keep working on that and let you know when we know more.
Okay, so looking forward to that July 20th-ish kind of time. Ish has become my favorite addition to any time anymore. Heather, it's been so nice to sit here and visit with you. I don't think we've ever had a chance to do this for very long. Is there anything else you'd like teachers to know about what's about to take place?
Well, I appreciate our teachers so much.
They have done a phenomenal job. I have also got to just butt in there and say it's unbelievable what they were asked to do and that they rose to the occasion, and our students benefited from that.
We did it, and we're going to meet the challenges of this coming year There's always that potential that there could be a closure again. So we're going to be in a better position. And I think we learned about the things that worked best and how we could do that better if it comes to that. But that's not going to be our immediate focus. We're going to just be excited about having our kids back and have a new opportunity to sort of build their class team in a way that we haven't before. So it's going to be a great year.
I agree. Something to look forward to. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nancy.
All right.